All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode, Together Achieving Greatness. We are going to jump in today and talk a little bit about getting bored with your training, or maybe it's the doing too many, just doing the same set, same reps, same movements over and over and over again. And yes, that can be an effective way, especially for beginners, to start training and just build up good form, build up good technique, and whether it's a squat or a bench or sprints or whatever it may be. That can be great, especially at the beginning. But if you're like me, that can get boring. Just programming specific, 3 sets of 10 and this, 3 sets of 10 of that, 3 sets of 10 of this, and just keep doing that month and month, year after year. Can it work? Yes, and it can be solid for that straight. Just follow these strict reps, these strict sets, same exercises day after day, month after month, year after year, like we've been saying. It can be effective, especially for beginners. Maybe it's something like you're doing a 5x5 type program, or even the 3 sets of 10, that type of stuff. But there comes a point when it gets boring. The results start to plateau. Maybe the body's not feeling it, you're not responding, you're not getting that stimulus like you used to. And that's because our body adapts over time. Our body gets used to things. And then people, maybe they get sick of this program their coach has them on, and their coach isn't adapting and changing, or they're just following these free programs that they get from whatever website. Like I used to when you go to bodybuilding.com. I don't even know if that's still a thing. You get all these random, just free training plans and do them, and then they get bored and you move on to something else. And it's a problem. Thinking of training and as only like sets and reps and volume and that type of stuff, and having, you have to do this much, or you have to have this exact amount to build your quads, or your chest isn't going to build unless you get this exact amount of volume in, and things like that. And people just get bored with that. And that's where training is. Too many trainers and I think coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, they just focus on what a book tells them, whatever it's the um, fundamentals of strength books or the certification books, all these books, what that book says or the study says or this research says. Do this, do that, do this. That crap gets boring. You don't need to do the same things over and over again. There's tons of different variations, tons of different movements, different exercises you can do. And I think that's huge for keeping people engaged, keeping you involved, and showing intent. Unless you're a power lifter, you don't need to do barbell back squats. You don't need to do bench presses only and deadlift, straight bar deadlift all the time. When I'm working with clients, I'm working with people who want to be more athletic. They want to feel better. They want to look better. They want to move better. And if they're, and a lot of them are like me, because I attract clients that are a lot like me, and I get bored easy. And a lot of people don't have that attention span. And yes, it's a lot of the same movement patterns, but we add in variation to change the stimulus, to give them something new, to freshen things up. And it's not every workout or anything like that. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just going free for all and kind of using training. And that's kind of my main point here, is that training is only limited by your imagination or your coach's imagination. Anything can be training. It doesn't have to be strictly stuck in the gym, because that can get boring, just lifting all the time. I used to be there, where you just lift and lift and lift. You get strong. You build muscle, which are great things. But eventually, your body starts to get beat down. You get bored. You get injured. You get immobile because you're not doing anything else. I don't even know if I said that right. Immobile. You get immobile. Your shoulders. If you're only bench pressing, you're not moving your shoulders at all. If you're only squatting, you're just compressing your spine. You're not bending and moving the spine. Things like that. Your hips get locked up. Whereas if you're more free moving, more mobility in your joints, it's going to make all those things better. You're going to perform better in those other exercises. But it's not being locked into just thinking of training as only lifting weights. It's using your creativity, using your imagination to do different variations, different sets and rep schemes. And heck, not even doing sets and rep schemes can be great too. Maybe you just go in and you do squats, sets of 2 until you're disinterested, or the bar speed starts to slow down, or something like that. Whereas if you're like, I used to do a lot of just kind of the West Side style training of that conjugate, where it's a heavy day, light day, or a heavy upper, heavy lower, and then your speed, your dynamic effort, upper and lower. And I still do similar to that, but it's when you get to the dynamic effort lifts, it's do 10 sets of 2 or 8 sets of 3 or whatever it is, with a certain amount of weight. And now I've gotten to the point where I don't need to do that. I can do however many sets I want. I don't always have prescribed sets. Don't always have prescribed reps. Training is not linear. It's going to go up and down, round and round. You got to adjust. And I don't program with percentages. It's using programming to you either like auto-regulate how you're feeling that day. Maybe, man, this day 100 pounds feels easy. The next week you do that, 100 pounds feels like 300 pounds because you didn't sleep, you didn't eat while kids were up screaming or whatever it is. You're down. It's up and down. It's not going to be progress all the time. Sometimes progress means taking a step back. And like I say, training is limited by your imagination. Anything can be training. Get outside the gym. Get outside the barbell. Yes, barbells are great. I think it's one of the better tools you can use, but you can get other types of bars. You can incorporate more, especially the way I like to coach and the people I work with seem to enjoy is more athletic type stuff. Being athletic, doing the things that you stopped doing when you're 12 years old, which you should be doing the rest of your life. That's crawling, that's skipping, hopping, sprinting, jumping, throwing, rolling, climbing, playing sports, cutting, just moving in different directions, getting the body free flow movement, kind of mobility sessions where you're not just, let's just do yoga where we're doing these strict poses. No, just get creative and bend this way, bend that way, try something new, put your arm behind your back, around your leg, whatever it is. It's not so strict and being a robot, because all these sports complexes that sports training, sports strength and conditioning, even just personal trainers, they're so robotic in the way they have people move. They're not having them learn to move themselves and feel their body through different movements, through different planes, through different ways, and challenging different ranges of motion and adding weight to those ranges of motion and just doing different things. Like they're afraid to looking stupid on social media or being criticized by some other coach or someone they idolize or whatever it may be. Who gives a crap? There's trainers out there who are doing a lot of stupid stuff that have millions and millions of views, and they get ripped on all the time. And are their good methods good or bad? I don't know. Most of them are pretty bad, but just getting out and moving and using your imagination to think of different ways to do exercises or movements, or use a barbell or a dumbbell or a kettlebell or whatever. Incorporate different things into your training, whether that's using basketball and dunking as your jump training, or crawling into a somersault into a sprint, or I just got a crash pad, so using a crash pad and doing flips and running into it and crawling and flipping into it and different things like that. That is all training. Training is everything. Or going to the playground like I do on most of my Saturdays. I'll do those are kind of my free-flowing, my more free sessions. Not a lot of there's an outline, I guess you could say, a template of what I want to do, but a lot of it is just go. I'm going to go start with sprints. We're going to do different sprints, whether that some days I'll do 30-yard sprints, some days I'll do different change of directions and agility type stuff. Chasing, I'll play fetch with myself, throw a frisbee and run down and try and catch it, that type of stuff. And it's more like being creative. And then it's going to the park and monkey bars or doing different things on monkey bars, climbing up the slides and jumping off, doing high drops off of the higher playground type stuff, or just using it as an obstacle course, and just coming up with different ways to train the body and let the body move. Because ultimately, that's what I want goals for myself, and I want to help my clients do, is become better movers. And you don't really do that by just going up and down in a squat all the time and just being robotic and trying to just have this perfect robotic movement like these training places and sports performance centers. They're like assembly lines. They're getting everyone to move the same one. In reality, we all move different. If you think about every movement, even if it's a squat or a bench press, throwing a baseball, every time you do it, it's going to be a little bit different. We're never going to have the same exact movement. Every time you go back to throw, maybe your elbows dips a little bit, or you release the ball at a different point, or your arms moving faster one time. Squat, maybe your knees cave in a little bit on this rep, the next rep not. You don't go as low, you don't go as high, your butt twitches at the bottom. Just different little things that we're repeating the same movement, but that movement is never exactly the same. And that's one thing I've learned from Rob Gray's book. You can see back there, How We Learn to Move. It's a great book. I guess you can't really see it, but back there behind the AT-AT. And it's about learning to move and feeling and self-organizing. And that's what imagination and creativity in training does. And it's a lot of, like, kids should be training. Just jumping, sprinting, rolling, being kids, basically play. I think more adults need to do that too, is more play. Yeah, it's great to have a plan and a structure, overall structure, but when it comes to our plan and structure, we can be creative and imagine it, using our imaginations within that plan, within that training session, getting creative with our warm-ups or even our everyday exercise. Yeah, you should be doing some sort of squat, some sort of hinging, some sort of lunging. That's going to be great. Again, there's no mandatory exercises that everyone has to do. There's these movement patterns, and in no way are there only 6 foundational movement patterns and things like that and all this stuff, or there's no such thing as pain-free performance either. But there's ways to get around if you have pain or injuries, or you don't necessarily have to do a barbell back squat. You could get creative, use your imagination, and come up with some different way of squat that feels good and gets you results and keeps you going and keeps you moving forward and wanting to train. Because that's ultimately what we want to do, is make sure we're training and doing and exercising and doing all this stuff for the rest of our lives. And if you're bored and you hate it and you're just miserable doing it, you're not going to keep doing it. That's, again, where that imagination comes in. Doing things that are fun, that challenge you, that's what a big reason why I like variety. Whether 1 week, or we're doing the back squat for a couple of weeks, then we move to a front squat or a Zercher squat, or just change the variation a little bit. Same movement pattern, but a different variation. Because I'm not trying to be the best squatter in the world or the best bench presser. I just want to be more athletic. I want to move better. I want to jump higher, run faster. I'm 35 now, as I go to 35 to 40. And I find that with a lot of clients I work with too, they just want to move better, feel better. They're not trying to set world records in squats and things like that. So we can challenge them with different variations, use our imagination, come up with different variations to give them a new stimulus. And it's not going to beat down their joints. And it gives them something to look forward to. Oh, this week we did back squat, like I said. Next week we did Zercher squat. Oh, I've never done this. Let's try this, and just challenge themselves. Give themselves a new stimulus, something to shoot for. They're still squatting, or benching or lunging or whatever, throwing, sprinting. But if we throw in a little wrinkle, a little variation, changes it up, gives them a new stimulus, stimulates the body, stimulates the mind, and challenges them and have fun. Again, one of the main things I look for when I'm training people is their intent, how they're interacting, if they're smiling, if they're enjoying their training, especially with the kids. That's the biggest key performance indicator. Everyone talks about KPIs or key performance indicators in their lifts, and whether it's a pull-up or a push-up or a bench or whatever. Now it smiles. That's the best one. If they're enjoying it, if they're having fun, they're laughing, they're working hard. Those are the biggest things, and that engagement factor. And that's where, again, that imagination, that creativity with training comes in. Again, your training is only limited by your imagination. I grew up having an imagination, playing with G.I. Joes and Legos and video games and all this stuff helped me create imagination and create stories in my head. And that's why I love video games so much, the story. That's why I like Legos. You use your imagination to have or build these cities and kind of stories yourself, and have the pirates battle the castle people, the knights, and that type of thing. And or before the Star Wars Legos came out, I remember building my own Star Wars Legos and recreating the Star Wars movies with my Lego sets. And then a few years later, actual Star Wars Legos came out, so I didn't have to do that anymore. I had my own, had the Star Wars Legos or whatnot. Or taking G.I. Joes, and I remember taking them and using my imagination and building them and creating wrestlers and having wrestling matches and different things like that, or having the G.I. Joes face off against the Transformers and different, just using my imagination. And that's always been, I've always had a pretty good imagination, and now it's just cool to utilize that in my training more. Whereas when I first started out, before I even started coaching, I was just following programs and thought I had to do all the strict sets and reps and schemes and different things like that. And I didn't use my creativity. I didn't use my imagination to unleash my ultimate movement in myself and in my clients and the people I'm helping. So that's ultimately really what I want to do, is use creativity, use imagination. Yes, there's times and places for certain sets and reps and stuff like that. But if you're not using your imagination, you're not really going to be getting the most out of your training. You're going to get stuck probably, unless you're one of those people who just likes to do the same thing over and over again. I couldn't imagine doing that. I need to change some things up. Yes, I like routines and stuff like that, but it can get boring if you're doing the same exact thing, especially with training. Whether that's sprinting, you can do different sprints, different variations, get creative, race someone, roll into a sprint, start in a push-up position, time yourself, all these different things, lifting, different variations, different squats, different benches, different sets and rep schemes, not even half sets and rep schemes. So again, training is limited by your imagination, so use it to free your body, free your movement, and ultimately learn your body and master your body and become a master of your body and how your body moves. And that's how you're going to become an athlete for life. It is that creativity, it is that imagination, and knowing that training is not just stuck to being in the gym lifting weights. You could go to a track and sprint on the track. You could go to a field and run on the field or play a sport. Basketball court, you could use basketball dunking. That's a great way for jumping, like I said. There's all these different things. You can think of anything as training. Playing with the kids. Go get them involved. That's a great way to get yourself involved, be a good example of health for them, and get them active, because too many people complain about their kids being not active, and that usually is because you, the parent, are not active yourself. You're not setting a good example that way and not getting them involved and showing them how much fun training, exercise, eating well, all that stuff can be. And heck, creativity, imagination can even fall into nutrition as well. And you can create different recipes and stuff like that. So use that imagination, use your creativity for good, use it for your training, use it for your nutrition, ultimately, your training, your results are only limited by your imagination. So use that imagination to unleash the best version of yourself. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll talk to you again soon.